Oh my God. Stop what you are doing, pause the group chat, mute the notifications, because the story I am about to walk you through right now is not the one you have been arguing about all week. It is the one sitting directly underneath it, the one nobody on your timeline has actually cracked open yet. And by the time we finish this breakdown, you're going to understand why Papoose's so-called paperwork situation is not the Flex's corner keeps trying to sell it as, and why Remy Ma just did something to Claressa Shields that did not need a single punch to land. The man who spent an entire career being introduced as the husband of Remy Ma is currently starring in a live-streamed melodrama in Flint, Michigan, while the actual heavyweight in this triangle is quietly turning every embarrassing headline into free promotion for a career resurgence nobody in the loud corner of this story saw coming. Everything you have been told about who is winning this situation has been framed around the wrong scoreboard. The scoreboard the internet keeps pointing at is the Livestream count. The scoreboard that actually matters is the one being kept in a New York courthouse, on a Rick Ross stage, on an Angie Martinez microphone, and in a publishing catalog that has been quietly compounding value for 2 decades while everybody else was screaming into a ring light. And when we get to the part of this breakdown where I lay Papoose's alleged paperwork claims next to what is actually documented in the public record, and then stack that against what Remy Ma pulled off in a single week, without saying one loud word, you're going to see exactly why this saga stopped being gossip somewhere around the middle of last month and quietly became one of the cleanest strategic dismantlings hip-hop has seen in years. There is a reason Papoose keeps talking about paperwork on live streams instead of showing paperwork in a courtroom. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. This is not a marriage falling apart in public. This is a rollout falling apart in public. And the person it was designed to bury is the exact person it is currently launching. Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit like, and subscribe. Let's get into it. Now let me get everybody caught up because this triangle has more moving parts than most people realize, and the loud side of the internet has been so focused on the noise that the actual architecture of this story has gone almost completely undiscussed. Papoose, born Shamil Mackey, is a Brooklyn rapper who came up through the DJ K-Slay mixtape circuit in the mid-2000s, a pen-first lyricist who built his reputation on bar-heavy freestyles and a work ethic that his fans have defended for close to 2 decades. For most of that run, though, Papoose's name in the mainstream conversation has been anchored to one thing, and that thing is his marriage to Remy Ma. Remy Ma, born Reminisce Smith, is a Terror Squad legend, a Bronx-born lyricist whose career survived a prison sentence, a comeback single with Fat Joe called All the Way Up that went multi-platinum, a Grammy-nominated run, a love and hip-hop tenure that reintroduced her to an entire new generation, and a catalog that continues to get referenced every time a serious conversation about female lyricism opens up in this culture. Papoose and Remy Ma got married inside a correctional facility in 2008, and for the next 15-plus years, they were sold to the culture as one of hip-hop's most durable marriages. That is the foundation. That is what makes what is happening right now not just messy, but historically significant. Then Flint, Michigan entered the chat. Claressa Shields, a 2-time Olympic gold medalist, the first American boxer of any gender to win back-to-back Olympic gold in the sport, an undisputed middleweight world champion, and by every reasonable metric the greatest women's boxer this country has ever produced, started appearing on live streams next to Papoose. Not once. Not twice. Constantly. Claressa Shields did not hint at the relationship, did not tease it, did not soft launch it with a shadowy vacation photo. Claressa put Papoose on camera, called him her man, dared the comments section to try her, and turned every single critic into an unpaid marketing department for whatever was being sold in the next stream. The stakes here are not small. Personally, we are talking about a 15-year marriage in a genre where 15 years is a lifetime. Culturally, we are talking about the public unraveling of a couple that an entire generation used as proof that hip-hop marriages could survive the industry. Financially, we are talking about publishing splits, business entities, real estate, and brand deals that do not disappear because somebody said the word separated on a Tuesday afternoon livestream. And reputationally, we are watching one of the most respected lyricists of his era rebrand himself in real time as a background character in somebody else's content strategy, while the woman he was married to for a decade and a half quietly steps back onto the biggest stages of her career. The question this whole video is going to answer is a simple one. Is what we are watching a real relationship trying to breathe in public, or is a rollout that needs the public to keep believing in it in order for it to exist at all? Because those two things look almost identical from the outside, and only one of them survives contact with a legal filing. Let's start with what is actually visible. because the surface evidence in the story is already loud enough to build an entire case on before we even touch the deeper layers. The first thing anybody paying attention should notice is the sheer volume of live streams. Claressa Shields has been going live at a pace that would exhaust a full-time content creator, and Papoose is in the frame for a huge percentage of them. Sometimes he is on the couch. Sometimes he is walking through the background with a phone in his hand and his eyes down. Sometimes he is upstairs while Claressa argues with viewers downstairs. Sometimes he is being introduced as an entrepreneur, a businessman, a partner, a whole list of titles that keep expanding in real time. And thousands of viewers across YouTube, TikTok, X, and Reddit have been posting the same observation independently of each other. He does not look comfortable. He does not look present. He does not look like a man who woke up excited to be broadcast to 100,000 strangers before he had his coffee. Some people say that it is unfair that you cannot read a man's whole marriage off a 12-second clip, and that is a fair point. But when the same read is trending across 5 different platforms at the same time, from audiences that do not overlap, that is not projection. That is a pattern, and patterns do not lie the way people do. The second piece of surface evidence is the merchandise rollout, and I want you to understand how absurd this actually is before we move on, because the internet keeps laughing at it without appreciating what it reveals. In the middle of a record-breaking July heat wave, with triple-digit temperatures being reported across the South and the Midwest, Claressa Shields went live pushing thick, fleece-lined hoodies, in July, and the comment sections were not merciful about it. Then came the $60 bobblehead, a plastic collectible being marketed as limited edition, with viewers in the comments claiming those same bobbleheads had reportedly been sitting boxed up in a garage before the sudden relaunch. $60 for a bobblehead that allegedly spent months collecting dust. This is not what a scaled business looks like. This is what a garage sale with a ring light looks like. And the reason this matters is that the entire narrative being pushed on those streams is that Papoose is a serious businessman and Claressa Shields is running a serious enterprise. The receipts so far do not match the branding. The third piece of visible evidence is the word swap. And this one is the piece I need you to sit with, because it is the thread that unravels the whole sweater. Somewhere in the last several weeks, the language on those live streams quietly shifted from the word divorce to the word separated. That is not a slip of the tongue. That is not a semantic accident. That is a legal escape hatch. Being separated is a relationship status you can announce on Instagram. Being divorced is a legal status that gets filed in a public New York court and shows up in searchable records. And as of every credible check anybody has been able to run, public records still do not show a completed divorce between Papoose and Remy. Read that sentence again. After all the live streams, after all the hoodies, after all the bobbleheads, after Claressa Shields calling Papoose her man in front of hundreds of thousands of viewers, the actual legal marriage that anchors this entire story has not been publicly dissolved. And that word swap, from divorce to separated, is exactly the kind of ambiguity a person uses when they know the paperwork does not back up the branding. The fourth piece of visible evidence, and honestly the funniest one, is the timing. Every single time Remy catches a positive wave in the news cycle, a Claressa Shields live stream lands within days. Rick Ross announced Remy as a special guest for a major New York show. A live stream dropped. Angie Martinez booked Remy for a stage moment that trended for 2 days. A live stream dropped. Remy stepped back out in public with the two-tone hair that broke the internet the first time in the 2000s. Another live stream dropped. Once is a coincidence. Twice is a pattern. 4 times is a rhythm. And rhythms in a rollout are not accidents. They are calendars. Somebody somewhere is watching Remy press cycle and timing responses to it. And once you see that pattern, you cannot unsee it, because it happens every single time without fail. And oh, do I have more for you? Because if you thought the surface layer was messy, wait until we get into the insider layer. Because this is where the story stops being funny and starts being surgical. The Papoose stands are really not going to like what is coming next, because the next section is not built on Livestream clips and hoodie jokes. It is built on the people around this story who have been paying attention, the artists who have been quietly signaling their position, the podcast moments that have not been getting the algorithmic push they deserve, and the specific way the culture around female rap has been reorganizing itself in real time to make room for exactly the kind of resurgence Remy is walking into. So take a breath, refill your drink, and stay with me, because the cultural layer of this story is where the score actually gets settled. Start with the company Remy has been keeping, because this is not random. Remy Ma has been booked on a Rick Ross show at a moment when Rick Ross is arguably running one of the most consistent brand and tour operations in the genre. Rick Ross does not hand out guest slots. Rick Ross curates rooms. Getting a Rick Ross cosign on a major stage right now is a signal to the industry that a veteran is being placed back into the rotation on purpose, not out of nostalgia. Then Remy Ma showed up on an Angie Martinez stage. And if you know anything about how hip-hop media consolidates a comeback, you know that an Angie Martinez moment is not a media appearance. It is a coronation. Angie Martinez has spent 30 years being one of the most trusted voices in this culture. And Angie Martinez does not center a woman on her stage without reason. That is one piece of cultural evidence. That is the industry quietly saying, we see her, we are placing her, we are protecting the run. The second piece of cultural evidence is the parallel timeline with Lil' Kim. And this one matters more than most commentators are acknowledging. Lil' Kim is currently in the middle of her own quiet resurgence, with a new verse on the remix of Ever Since You Left by French Montana and Max B that reignited an entire conversation about foundational female MCs, whose catalogs have been under-discussed for years. The fact that Lil' Kim's resurgence and Remy Ma's resurgence are happening in the exact same news cycle is not a coincidence. It is a cultural correction. The genre is reaching back for the women who built the modern female rap infrastructure, and the timing of Remy Ma's re-emergence inside that same wave is not accidental. It is strategic positioning inside a broader cultural moment, and it is compounding her leverage every single week. The third piece of cultural evidence is the response from artists who have not said Remy Ma's name, but have very obviously chosen a side through what they are amplifying and what they are ignoring. You will notice that no significant female MC has publicly co-signed the Claressa Shield side of the story. Not one. Not a single major female rapper has gone live in support, dropped a bar acknowledging it, or thrown a subtle post in that direction. That silence is a statement. In a genre where alignments are usually signaled loudly and publicly, the absence of alignment with the loud side of this triangle is one of the clearest tells you will ever see about which way the culture is actually leaning. The industry has voted with its silence, and its silence is voting for Remy Ma. The fourth piece of cultural evidence is the way the comment sections have organized themselves, and I know some people are going to say you cannot base a story on comments, and normally I would agree with you. But when the same phrase, the glow-up is the response, starts appearing in the top comments of every breakdown video across every platform, from creators who do not know each other, in threads that are not coordinated, that is not a comment section anymore. That is a cultural verdict being written in real time by an audience that has decided who the protagonist of this story is. And the protagonist they have chosen is the one who has not said a word. Now I want to be fair, because a good breakdown does not just prosecute. It acknowledges the counter-argument and then handles it. The counter-argument here is that Claressa Shields has always been loud, has always been outspoken, has always been the kind of camera-comfortable personality who broadcasts her life because that is genuinely who she is, not because she is running a strategy. That is a real point, and I respect it. Personality plays a huge role in how people show up online, and Claressa Shields did not become a two-time Olympic gold medalist by being shy. But here is where that counter-argument breaks down. Personality does not explain the timing. Personality does not explain why every stream lands on the exact day Remy Ma is getting press. Personality does not explain the word swap from divorce to separated. Personality does not explain a $60 bobblehead relaunch out of a garage. Personality is who you are when nobody is watching. Strategy is what you do because you know somebody is always watching. And once you split the streams into celebration of a new relationship versus defense against online criticism about a new relationship, the ratio starts telling on itself. Defense is not what a secure relationship broadcasts on a Tuesday afternoon. Defense is what a rollout broadcasts when the rollout is starting to buckle. And now we shift gears, because this is where the story stops being about three people and starts being about the machine those three people are standing inside of. Everything we have talked about so far, the live streams, the hoodies, the word swap, the timing, sits on top of a much bigger structural story about how attention actually works in modern hip-hop. And if you do not understand the structural story, none of the surface behavior makes sense. So let's slow all the way down and go into the industry layer, because this is the part your favorite reaction channels are not going to touch. And this is the part that separates people who understand this culture from people who are just consuming it. The first systemic angle is the attention economy itself, and how it has quietly rewired the incentive structure of celebrity in hip-hop. In the old model, an artist built a catalog, toured that catalog, and let the work carry the name through decades. Remy Ma was built inside that model. The catalog is the asset. The tour is the compounding return. The name outlives the news cycle because the work outlives the news cycle. In the new model, an artist builds engagement, daily streams, daily clips, daily reactions, and monetizes the engagement in real time through merch drops, Livestream tips, and audience of strangers commerce. The problem with the new model is that engagement is not equity. Engagement is a rented apartment. The second you stop paying rent, the second you stop streaming, the address disappears. And what we are watching in Flint right now is a full-scale bet on the new model at the exact moment when the old model is quietly proving, one Rick Ross stage at a time, that it still owns the building. The second systemic angle is the legal reality underneath a 15-year marriage. And this is the part that gets glossed over in every basic take on this story. When a marriage lasts 15 plus years, unwinding it is not a status update. It is not a live stream. It is not a caption. It is a legal process that involves community property, income splits, publishing catalog interests, business entity ownership, potential tax implications, and formal court filings that get logged in searchable public records in the state of New York. Those filings take months. Those filings sometimes take years. And a delay in a public filing does not automatically mean anything scandalous. But a delay does mean that everything currently happening on those live streams is happening while the paperwork still ties two names together at the legal level. Which means that every time somebody on a stream says separated instead of divorced, they are not just being casual. They are navigating a very specific gap between the branding and the record. And that gap is where the entire structural weakness of the loud side of this story lives. The third systemic angle is the female rap infrastructure itself. And this one is the biggest of the three, because this is the layer that determines who gets to have a career 10 years from now and who becomes a footnote in somebody else's Wikipedia page. Female rap has spent the last 2 decades being under-resourced, under-promoted, and under-documented by the same industry that constantly claims to be championing it. The women who built the modern infrastructure, Lil Kim, Foxy Brown, Remy Ma, Trina, Eve, have been fighting for shelf space against a marketing budget that keeps getting redirected to whichever new artist the algorithm is willing to reward this quarter. And what is happening right now, with Lil Kim back on a French Montana remix and Remy Ma back on a Rick Ross stage in the same news cycle, is nothing less than a structural correction. The industry is quietly acknowledging that the foundation cannot keep being ignored while the top floor keeps being renovated. And Remy Ma is not standing in the middle of that correction by accident. Remy Ma is standing in the middle of it because Remy Ma spent 2 decades doing the work that made her impossible to leave out of it. That is not a comeback. That is a compounding return on a catalog nobody was smart enough to price correctly the first time around. And when you overlay all 3 systemic angles, the attention economy, the legal reality, and the female rap infrastructure correction, you get a picture that looks nothing like what the loud side of the story keeps trying to sell. You get a picture in which Papoose is trading long-term equity for short-term visibility inside somebody else's content strategy. Claressa Shields is running a Livestream engine that is producing engagement but not equity. And Remy Ma is quietly compounding 2 decades of catalog value inside a cultural moment that was practically designed for her to walk back into. One of those 3 positions is a rented apartment. 2 of them are the building. And the market always rewards the building. Now here is the truth bomb. Here is the part of this breakdown I have been building toward, and I want you to sit with it, because it is going to reframe every single thing you have been watching for the last several months. The story that has been sold to you. The story of Papoose leaving Remy Ma for Claressa Shields. The story of a 15-year marriage collapsing under the weight of a new relationship. The story of a Brooklyn rapper starting over in Flint is not the actual story. The actual story is that Papoose is currently the least valuable asset in his own headline. Read that sentence again. Papoose is the least valuable asset in his own headline. The women on either side of him, Remy Ma, with a 2-decade catalog and a live industry cosign machine, Claressa Shields with 2 Olympic golds and an undisputed championship, are both operating at a scale of achievement that Papoose has not touched in his career. And the paperwork he keeps referencing on live streams, the paperwork that is supposed to prove he is a free man moving on to his next chapter, does not appear to exist in the public record in the form his corner has been implying it does. Which means what the internet has been calling a divorce is, at the level of the actual documentation, closer to a public separation happening, while a legal marriage is still technically intact. And when you understand that the paperwork is not what it has been sold as, every other piece of this puzzle rearranges itself into a much uglier picture. A picture in which a veteran rapper allegedly bet his reputation on a rollout that required the paperwork to already be finalized, and the paperwork, according to what is publicly searchable, is not finalized. Now I want to be crystal clear here, because this matters. I am not telling you Papoose has done anything illegal. I am not telling you Claressa Shields has done anything wrong. I am telling you that the branding of this situation and the documentation of this situation are not currently aligned. And when branding outruns documentation in public, the branding eventually collapses back to the documentation. It always does. It has never not. And the collapse is what we are watching right now in slow motion. One hoodie sale, one bobblehead, one word swap at a time. Meanwhile, on the other side of this triangle, Remy Ma has not said one loud word. And every silent week that passes, Remy Ma's leverage compounds. Because in a story where one side is over-broadcasting and the other side is under-broadcasting, the market eventually corrects toward the side that had the receipts the whole time. And Remy Ma has the receipts. Remy Ma has the catalog. Remy Ma has the stages. Remy Ma has Rick Ross, Angie Martinez, and a cultural moment aligned with Lil Kim, all pointing in the same direction. That is not a coincidence. That is a coronation being written in silence, while somebody else is screaming into a ring light in Flint. And by the time the loud side of this story realizes what actually happened, the coronation will already be finished. Which brings us to the resolution. And this is the part one wants you to hold on to, because this is the part that matters more than any single clip or headline in this whole saga. The person with the discipline is winning. Not the person with the volume. Not the person with the Livestream count. Not the person with the $60 bobblehead. The person with the discipline. Remy Ma spent 2 decades doing the work when nobody was applauding, spent years grinding through an industry that did not always know how to market her, spent a whole career being introduced as Papoose's wife in rooms where the introduction should have been the other way around, and did all of it without turning her private life into a daily broadcast for strangers. And now, at the exact moment when the loud side of her story is imploding on camera, the quiet side of her story is being handed one of the biggest cultural moments of her career on a plate. That is not luck. That is what happens when you build something durable while everybody else is building something loud. One person spent the last several months making music, taking meetings, walking stages, and letting the catalog talk. The other spent the last several months walking through the background of somebody else's live stream with his eyes down. History is going to remember which one was which, and history is not going to be kind about it. And the beautiful part of this whole thing, the part that should give every viewer watching this some genuine faith in how the culture course corrects, is that Remy Ma did not have to prosecute anyone to win this. Remy Ma did not have to go live. Remy Ma did not have to subtweet. Remy Ma did not have to release a diss record. Remy Ma just had to keep being Remy Ma, and the audience did the math out loud on her behalf. That is the difference between an artist and a personality. Personalities need the camera to exist. Artists exist whether the camera is on or not. And when a personality tries to out-broadcast an artist, the artist wins every single time on a long enough timeline, because the artist has something the personality cannot manufacture in a garage, a body of work that outlives the news cycle. Remy Ma is fine. Remy Ma was always going to be fine. And anybody who bet against her in this triangle is about to find out the hard way that you cannot out-broadcast a catalog. Now here is what I need you to watch for over the next several weeks, because this story is not finished. It is just entering its second act, and the second act is going to be even louder than the first. The first thing I need you tracking is the paperwork. Watch to see whether the word separated ever officially becomes the word divorced in a publicly reported New York filing. Because until that happens, every claim being made on those live streams is operating on borrowed narrative time. The second thing I need you tracking is Remy Ma's next musical move, because every early signal, the Rick Ross booking, the Angie Martinez stage, the parallel timing with Lil Kim's remix moment, is pointing toward a rollout that is being paced with real intention. If Remy Ma drops new music inside this cultural window, this entire conversation flips inside 24 hours. And I do not want you catching that headline from somebody else. I want you catching it here first, which is why you need to be subscribed with notifications on before you close this tab. Because the breakdown of that moment, when it lands, is going to be one of the most important videos this channel puts out this year. Drop one word in the comments before you go, Team Silence or Team Livestream, and let's see which side this comment section actually rides for. And if you're the next piece of this puzzle right now, go watch my breakdown on the quiet resurgence of female rap that is happening underneath all of this noise. Because Remy Ma, Lil Kim, and 2 other names that have not been in the mainstream conversation in years are about to run this next cycle. And the video I have queued up next is going to show you exactly how the industry is repositioning itself to make room for them, including one specific label move that nobody in the culture has connected yet. And once I show it to you, you are going to understand why the next 12 months in female rap are going to look nothing like the last 12. Click it before you leave. Stay safe out there, stay off other people's comment sections, and I will see you in the next one.